Good afternoon. My name is Ross Mirkarimi. It's an honor to be before you and the other finalist. I am the elected sheriff for the city and county of San Francisco. And to put in context, the United States, as I think many of us know, is 5% of the world's population. We also rank first in our incarceration rates in the United States. Our recidivism or repeat offender rates have been disastrous, almost unchanged for decades. And the United States ranks 21st in attaining public education status amongst the world. In San Francisco, we reconcile these realities by the creation of the Sheriff's Department, 5 Keys Charter High School. Now, this is not an adaptation, and this is not any kind of replication of any innovation. We have the first charter high school in the United States built into a county jail system. It has cut its teeth over the last few years, and it was recognized last year as California's Charter School of the Year award. And it did not come without its trials and tribulations. Years before that we established the official 5 Keys Charter High School, the Sheriff's Department had engaged other agencies to contract to bring in educational services. Whether it was inconsistencies with staff not working out in a county jail environment, or programming that just wasn't culturally competent and it just wasn't the right fit, or figuring out that not all in a jail population is homogenous and it needs to be really specialized according to the needs of the people that are incarcerated. 5 Keys was established. And what we've done essentially, and frankly I think it's a little bit subversive and elegant at the same time, considering how in this country we have squandered public education funding and overbuilt prisons and jails. We have put a priority in making sure that our county jail system, for more than 6 hours a day, becomes a high school, where it's no longer the depiction that one would see of inmates playing checkers or watching TV. Those day rooms are of yesteryear. And for years now in our charter high school, it is this very precise and well-delineated programs that have the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval by our Board of Education in San Francisco. Our charter schools unionized by teachers. And it's now given us the ability to really make the kind of inroads that has other counties from California and around the country really liking where we're coming from. To the point now that we're now one of the most undercrowded jail systems in the United States per capita because of our lower recidivism rates, which now I'm going to give to Steve Good because we've created satellite sites in communities so people can finish their degrees when they get out of county jail. Right. Steve.
Thank you, Sheriff. So our jails are filled with the least educated members of society and consequently the poorest members of society. By having a jail that's built around a school, we provide direct access to education, but not just education. We provide English as a second language, special education, beginning literacy and numeracy, and a complete contingent of high school classes leading to a full high school diploma. We also partner with City College of San Francisco, where we provide direct access to college. The question is, how effective is our program, though? What we've learned over the years is our students come to us with a reading level of between 5th and 6th grade level, same with math. After 10 weeks of instruction, we see a 2 grade level gain in both reading and math levels. We see between a 70 and 80% rate of our seniors graduating by passing the California High School Exit Exam, which is a requirement in California in order to get your full high school diploma. We've showed through student surveys a 90% satisfaction rate, and we've lowered the recidivism rate by over 50%. So it's not only a public safety initiative by making folks returning to the communities less violent, it's cost reduction. If we look at the cost of educating somebody in San Francisco at about $63,000, for every 10 individuals that don't return to jail, that's a $630,000 savings. Transferability, in 2012, we opened 5 Keys Los Angeles County jails, where we now are actually a little bit larger in Los Angeles. We have 13 community sites in Los Angeles and 26 community sites in San Francisco, where we realize that doing the work inside the jails is only part of the equation. The other half is doing it before folks actually get to that point. And Coincidentally, 30% of our community graduates in San Francisco last year started their education while incarcerated. We've also now become the fabric of San Francisco County's workforce investment program, where we are written into the county's workforce investment plan. We provide education services for the Office of Economic Workforce Development, Department of Public Health, Human Services Agency, and the Attorney General's Back on Track program in Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Talk about how this relates to, I mean, the reduction in recidivism is impressive. Talk about the impact on unemployment. I would imagine that that's significant too.
Great question. The impact on unemployment. So one of the things that we've been working on in both Los Angeles and San Francisco is partnering with the workforce development community. All of our external sites in the community have a workforce development component, and the idea is to leverage our education services with the workforce training program. So somebody can have direct access when they get out of jail to a 5 Keys program and to a workforce development program to leverage that service to help them get employed.
If I may, as you probably heard, San Francisco's a bit of a cost-prohibitive city. So it's important that no matter what miracles are performed inside the county jail system, really from the onset of incarceration, discharge planning is now being devised so that we prepare somebody for release so that they're able to sustain themselves in San Francisco and not return back. So our challenges within the jails are now extended to the livability outside the jails, which is why these partnerships with other agencies is so crucial.
Jails aren't prisons, and one of the big differences between the two is the amount of time spent in each one. And I thought one of the interesting pieces of your application was even if people are spending weeks or a month or so in this, in a jail and in 5 Keys, there is a connection then outside to independent study programs. I wonder if you could talk about what happens for those that may go through actually in jail the education very quickly, but then connect to something outside.
Would you like to start?
Right. So going back to what I kind of said earlier is that we realized that educating somebody while incarcerated is only half the piece, and because they are in there for short time periods, we needed to provide a continuum for them to continue their services outside of jail. So by partnering with the workforce development programs at both San Francisco and Los Angeles, we've provided that continuum. And these agencies include like adult probation, where when somebody gets out of jail and they have to report to a day reporting center for adult probation, we actually have 2 learning centers in the probation offices so someone can get direct access. We have a day reporting center for the San Francisco Sheriff's Department, where my office is at. We actually have a classroom there. Likewise, with the Human Services Agency of San Francisco, where we have work to welfare clients, right inside their office, when somebody signs up for their work to welfare program, they can enroll in 5 Keys Charter School and continue or restart their education. And they get credit for looking for a job so they can continue receiving their welfare payments.
Even for people that may not have even gone through a jail-based.
Right, and we're proud to say that half of our community graduates now are folks that have never been incarcerated.
Yeah,
And just to add to that, it's an interesting and a welcome problem at the same time. We're 50%, over 50% undercrowded in our jail system. So we have to prepare for satellite and community education. So if you just get a taste of that education within, we now work with the adult probation department to make it part in successful completion of their probation to finish what they start in the school system. That's how we're compelling this level of completion and success rates.
So it is actually tied to their parole.
And it's a staple, which is really fascinating, and I'm glad is that it's become part of the norm. So when the district attorney or the courts or the judges or the public defender or private attorneys go into the San Francisco courts, many of them are saying, please put them on 5 Keys Charter High School, Sheriff's Department, both within incarceration if they happen to be incarcerated or out in the community. So it is now on the menu high up.
Can you talk a little bit about the cultural change it requires to move from a traditional correction facility to education? I can't imagine that happens overnight.
No paradigm shift does, and when you think about it, if I can expound just for a little bit, I mean, my opinion is that this country's criminal justice system has really been built on an ethos of retribution. And our approach, and I think it's been disastrous, and our approach departs from that, where it's really restorative justice based. And 5 Keys, I think, is really one of those antidotes to this. And of course, if you have generations of deputies who work inside, like people in law enforcement, who feel that this might be a little too hippy-dippy or bohemian for them, or just San Francisco, you know, I think we've been able to prove them wrong over the last few years by the success of people not returning back to jail and public safety being improved.
And if I may add to that, we've seen in Los Angeles, for example, a 12% reduction on inmate violence, excuse me, a 10% reduction on
Right.
inmate violence, from 12% to 2%, which directly improves the quality of a person's job who works in that environment.
It's really terrific.
What about the long-term transferability to prisons?
Well, you may have heard of state prisoner realignment. This is what was imposed by the courts and part of Governor Brown's plan, because at the state level of California, it was such a disastrous sort of tier that they redistributed prisoners to the 58 counties, we being one of them. We've defied all odds, because criminologists from the left to the right, middle, were all saying that we would be at overcrowding conditions and it would exacerbate public safety trends, and it's completely been the opposite. And so this is one of the reasons I believe we've been able to export our high school to the most populated county jail system in the nation or planet, Los Angeles. And by the way, we've insisted that they keep our name, which they have to keep the Giants-Dodgers rivalry going, right? And they are, which is cool. And I think that people are feeling that this is the right, sort of one of the right approaches. Absolutely.
And Dr. Brandt showed, who's the superintendent for the CDCR in California, Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, has put the R back, with meaning rehabilitation. He and I have been talking about how we can work together. In fact, he was one of the folks that helped us establish ourselves in Los Angeles.
Because presumably the same principles could apply.
Well, prisons actually have educational systems. The difference is county jails have not. I mean, one other example is prisons have probably been more lenient about computers in housing areas. Not until just recently, we introduced the largest tablet computer pilot of any county jail system in the nation, because there's been a prohibition across the country so that the inmates will have access to do their own learning. It's under a 4G network, highly secured, of course, and we supervise, but they can have access to the libraries, law libraries, and continue their work of preparation for release, or even their own discovery that they have to go to. So these are the trends that we're beginning to see, and we certainly hope they take hold.
And the prisons don't have a 5 Keys charter high school, which is more comprehensive than the programs that they currently have.
Correct.
So I was curious, you tried to find people to come in and use other charter schools and realized you couldn't do that. And so you decided to set it up yourself. So
Right.
That was a really amazing story. So could you just tell me how you found people who were going to work with you? I mean, how did you go about setting up your own school?
Well, it's my predecessor, Sheriff Mike Hennessey, and his administration, and I was honored enough to be his chosen successor, moving this forward. But they went through an amazing trial and error process, and they were able then to contract in creating out 5 Keys. You want to give?
So
they found Steve.
well, I came along a little bit later. When I came aboard, we had
Trial and error.
We had 3 locations, 2 jails, 1 community site, and 170 cents. But the original inception of the school was the Sheriff Mike Hennessey and Sonny Schwartz and a group of 40 members of the community that came together to vision and brainstorm about what an educational program should look like inside of the county jails and what components should it have. And of that came the concept of restorative justice, partnering with the substance abuse programs, the cognitive behavioral programs, and really making the school the cornerstone of the jail, flipping the paradigm. You go to jail, you go to school, not you go to jail and get punished.
And the comparisons are night and day in terms of the climate they were working with, near overcrowding conditions, when now we're 50% undercrowded.
Right.
There were not satellite campuses. Now we've established satellite campuses under our administration.
Thank you. So it was a whole process that he went through to figure out what the vision was of the charter, and then find people who would want to work there and implement that vision.
And the funding mechanism in order to sustain it, just like other schools are funded, public schools are funded through a per head amount that's given through the Department of Education.
I see. Thank
Right.
you.
And that involved many trips up to talking to the California Department of Education to see how this model would work, to make sure that it was all above board, and hence we launched in 2003.
Terrific. Well, sounds very, really impressive. And I'm glad that Los Angeles wants to take it over, and I'd like a lot of others to do it
There's
as
other
well.
counties who are
Yeah,
asking.
I'm sure that's true.
So it's a capacity issue now.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.